This conference will now be recorded.
Okay, today I'll set the context for today. Okay, and then we'll discuss each item in a detailed manner. Okay, fine. Is the screen visible? Someone please confirm. Is the screen visible?
No, sir.
No, sir.
No, sir.
Now is visible?
Yes, sir. Yes, sir.
Yes.
Okay, okay, fine. Firstly, I'll set the context for today. Okay, what are all the items we are going to discuss, and then we'll discuss each item individually in a detailed manner. Firstly, we'll do yesterday we had a brief discussion of transaction and loyalty management project, right? Today what we'll try to do, we'll try to discuss about that particular project with the help of high level diagram in a detailed manner. Okay, that is one thing which we will try to do today. And then I will tell the same journey for banking along with retail also, how it will be utilized in the retail space. Okay, yesterday we were speaking about only the banking related, right? Today I'll explain both the journeys, how you can differentiate from the banking journey to retail journey. That is one thing. And then see, we need to understand, we understood the project at the high level firstly, okay, and then immediately we need to know what is the API landscape discussion. For example, like how many APIs have to be there, how many endpoints have to be there, and how many experience APIs are there, how many process APIs, how many system APIs. Okay, that particular discussion we'll try to do in the API landscape discussion. But here, before going to API landscape discussion, I just wanted to introduce some concepts exactly. What are those? Monolithic application and microservices. Okay, why? Because most of the industry is following microservices as of now. Okay, and to understand microservices importance, we need to understand my monolithic application also. That is the reason I will introduce monolithic application and what are its advantages and disadvantages before discussing the API landscape discussion of our transaction loyalty management project. We'll try to see monolithic application and advantages and disadvantages. Immediately, we'll go for microservices and their advantages and disadvantages. After that, what we'll try to see, there is a concept called API-led connectivity. We are all aware, obviously. If you have completed your MuleSoft course, already you are aware of what is API-led connectivity. I'll discuss all these concepts in brief manner. The reason being exactly like we are going to use the same concepts and introduce and implement the project. Okay, we are going to use the API-led connectivity architecture and then design our project. Now we should know what is API-led connectivity. As part of that API-led connectivity, we'll see what is system API, process API, what is experience API, and then when to go for system API, when to go for process API, and when to go for experience API. Okay, this kind of scenario based we'll discuss, and then we'll try to understand the advantages and disadvantages also. Okay, then after finishing this, see why API-led connectivity. API-led connectivity is an approach to implement microservices architecture in MuleSoft. Okay, for that reason, even API-led connectivity approach is also very, very important. We need to understand that almost all the projects in MuleSoft, most of the projects, I cannot tell all the projects, most of the projects are implemented using API-led connectivity. Okay, now what we'll try to do, we will try to, after finishing this API-led connectivity approach and all, then we'll try to come to API landscape discussion. We'll try to see what are the experience APIs, what are the process APIs, what are the system APIs in our banking and retail project. Okay, transaction management project. Then after that, we'll see the regular duties and responsibilities of a MuleSoft developer also. Okay, what are the different roles and responsibilities he carries as a integration developer or a MuleSoft developer. Then we'll see what are the list of softwares and tools required for the project. To implement our project, we need some tools and softwares, right? We'll see what are all the list exactly, and then we'll proceed further. These are the discussion items for today, and we will do this in two parts. The first session will be around almost like 1 to 1.5 hours, and the second session will be around 1 to 1.5 hours. Okay, fine. Firstly, we'll go to discuss the transaction loyalty management project in detail. For example, see, you have seen, right? Yesterday at a broad level, we have seen what is happening here. Here, we'll understand this is a mobile application or web application. It can be any. Okay. The customer, the customer has initiated a credit card transaction. Okay, a credit card transaction. Already we have taken the example of ICICI Bank, and ICICI Bank has so many credit card customers, and they are utilizing. Now, one of the customers of ICICI Bank is using the credit card, and our journey starts here. Okay, that particular transaction journey will be initiated from the mobile application or web application. For example, now this credit card customer opened Amazon website and he wanted to buy some items, and the bill is around, for example, like the total purchase amount is around 25,000 rupees. Now he is going to pay with ICICI credit card. Now he is inside the Amazon website, and then he went to the payment page, and then with the help of, he'll be entering the credit card details, and credit card, as soon as he enters the credit card details of ICICI, then this particular transaction API will get generated. Okay, now what happened? As soon as the customer make the 25,000 rupees transaction, okay, and from front end that application, the transaction will be initiated. We have exposed our transaction API. We have exposed our transaction API, and that transaction API will be consumed by the front end application. Okay, the transaction API will be consumed by the front end application. Now this is known as consumer, and this is known as service provider. Who is the service provider here? API ecosystem, for example, or our API also. You can call service provider. What is the API we are trying to develop? REST API, and REST API will be exposed as a as an API to the consumer. Exactly. Who is the consumer? Mobile application or web application, and that particular mobile application and web application, when they click on the payment details, then your transaction will be initiated as in the form of a request. You will initiate the request. Now in the request, we'll receive all the details, right? What is the total amount he has initiated? Okay, and what is the credit card number? What is the name of the customer? All those details will be coming as part of the request, along with the headers, query params, and URI params, if there are any for that particular request. Exactly. Okay, now MuleSoft ecosystem, this is the, see, if you observe, this is the MuleSoft integration layer. Till now I haven't decided how many APIs as part of the transaction API ecosystem. Exactly. Okay, I'm just showing you a broad picture that transaction API is exposed to the front end mobile application or web application, and that is triggering the request, and we are receiving it and we are processing it. Now API, what it will try to do, API will connect to the backend system. What is the backend system as part of our ecosystem? Salesforce ecosystem. Okay, Salesforce. Now what we'll try to do, we'll take the request from the front end, and then we'll process it and we'll send it to Salesforce system. We'll update the details in Salesforce system. Now what is this exactly? Can we call it as target system or end system, target or end system? Can we call this as consumer or source system? In the interviews, most of the time they'll ask you what are the source systems, what are the target systems, and what are the connectors involved as part of your project exactly. Okay, for that reason you need to have a clear understanding what are the source systems, what are the target systems in terms of your total project journey. Okay, for that reason I'm telling now where the transaction has been initiated in the web application or mobile applications. Now mobile application or web application can be your source system, and we can call it as a consumer also. Okay, because they are consuming our API, right? For that reason we can call that as consumer also. Okay, fine. Now what happens, we received the request. Now transaction API will send a request to Salesforce system saying this particular customer, okay, has done a transaction of 25,000 rupees and make a note of it exactly, and Salesforce system will save that particular transaction in one object. What is Salesforce system? What is Salesforce system? Salesforce system is a very famous CRM system which will be helpful to save different cycles of a different cycles of the journey of a customer exactly. Okay, we can use it for different purposes. At this, in this context, we are trying to use it to save the transaction details of a customer. Okay, transaction details of a customer. Now this transaction API has communicated to Salesforce system by changing all the details. See, because the request which is sent by the front end will not be understood by Salesforce, right? It will convert accordingly and then send a request to Salesforce system. Now Salesforce system will say, I have received the request and I have saved it and it is successful. Then it will send a response back to the transaction API. It says that your transaction is successful. Okay, now once it is successful, we received the success response and we will communicate the same to our consumer also, and then he will be able to see that transaction is successfully completed. Okay, this is the complete journey which is happening. As part of this exactly, if you understand, there is a front end layer, integration layer, and end systems layer. See here, this is front end layer till this point, and this is integration layer or middleware. We can call it as a middleware also, because we are staying in between the front end system and back end systems, and you can call end systems also or back end systems also. Okay, what are the back end systems? If you observe here, Salesforce database, again loyalty, third party API, all these are part of the back end systems for us exactly. Okay, any questions so far?
No, sir.
Okay, fine. Now I told you ICICI Bank customers will be almost in lakhs, right? For example, I took around, there are 10 lakh customers who use credit card in the ICICI Bank. Now we will receive all those transactions every day, and then it will be populated into Salesforce system. Okay, this particular transaction API, how it will be, what is the API, how it will be again decomposed into experience, process, system, all those we'll see it in the API landscape exactly, API landscape diagram here. Okay, in this diagram, but I don't want to discuss now at this point of time, because I just wanted to introduce microservices, monolithic application, and then API led connectivity. Then we'll go to API led API landscape exactly. At that point of time, what happens is your understanding will be in a better and efficient manner. For that reason, I'm not going to discuss at this point of time. This transaction API will be broken into again 3 layers exactly: experience layer, process layer, and system layer. And why we'll break that and all, we'll understand in a while exactly. Now these 10 lakh customers have utilized the credit, will be utilizing the credit card, right? And then all the transactions will be populated in Salesforce system. As soon as they are populated in Salesforce system, I need to give the reward points to these particular customers. For example, like they have used 10,000 rupees. For that, I wanted, for each and every transaction, I need to create some points for them, and then I need to assign those points to that particular customer. For example, now I told you a transaction of 25,000 rupees. Okay, now credit card also, if you observe, you will be having different kinds of credit cards. exactly. Like maybe we'll try to simplify that process. For example, like I categorize it into three cards: silver credit card, gold credit card, platinum credit card. Silver, they will receive less points. Gold, medium level points, and platinum, he will receive more number of points. Exactly. Okay. Already you know, right? Generally, they give the credit limits will be higher, and based on our the financial credit history, they will try to give you the credit card, and based on that only they will be giving it is a silver, gold, or platinum. Okay. Now for example, for this the person who has spent now is 25,000 rupees, right? He has spent around 25,000 rupees. That particular person's transaction value is 25,000. He holds a gold card. Okay, he holds a gold card. Gold card means he will receive some, for example, like for 10,000, uh, for silver card he will receive 20 points, example I'm telling. Okay, if it is gold card he will receive 25 points. If it is platinum card he will receive 30 points. For example, like this is the way. Now as the customer is a gold member, now he will receive how many? 25 points. Now that calculation and all, who will do? This particular scheduler. Okay, integration. Scheduler integration. What it will try to do? I have designed a I have designed a scheduler integration. Okay, scheduler integration. What it will try to do? It will try to pick the transactions happened. Okay, pick the transactions happened in the Salesforce system, and then each transaction it will check. Okay, for this particular card holder, okay, he's a gold member, he has spent around 25,000, and for this 25,000 there are 25 points. Okay, for example, like he has received 25 points as a gold member. Who will decide that gold member 25 points for a gold member? This particular loyalty point third party API. What is this loyalty point third party API? Normally, as part of the functioning of banks, right? Banks will not do all the things on its own. What it will try to do, for example, I just wanted to take an example here. Banks will outsource some part of their business to some other third party vendors also. For example, like this kind of loyalty point management system, there will be so many service providers outside the uh, in the market they will be providing these kind of services. Now ICICI has chosen one of those services. Exactly. Okay, what is that? Loyalty management system, LMS systems. Exactly. Okay, for different purposes there are different systems and different service providers. For this particular service they have selected one third party system, maybe whatever the name of that particular business, they will be tying up with them, and then they will use their service, and as part of this they will be paying for them. Okay, to use their software they will be paying it. But this third party system, what they have done, they have exposed a REST API for doing the same. Again, they will have their backend systems and all, but for our consumption they have exposed a REST API. Now what we'll try to do, our scheduler integration will trigger maybe for 5 minutes or every 10 minutes or for every 5 minutes or per day one time, whatever is the frequency chosen by the architect. Okay, for now we'll understand like for every 5 minutes it's getting triggered, and for every 5 minutes 1,000 transactions have been populated in the Salesforce system, for example. Okay, the first 5 minutes it will pick up all the 1,000 transactions, and that 1,000 transactions one by one it will send to loyalty point third party API, and then it will be calculated, and the corresponding number of points will be assigned to that particular customer, and all those details will be saved in the third party loyalty system. Okay, for example, like 1,000 transactions, 1,000 credit cards, and different members, maybe type of members, maybe gold, silver, and all. Based on that, this loyalty point API will calculate all the points for that particular credit card, and then it will store. Now the points, for example, like 1,000 credit card transactions happen, and those 1,000 credit card transactions will be calculated, and then it will be saved in the which API, which system? Third party loyalty system. Okay, third party loyalty system. Now whenever we wanted to use that, obviously they have given our they given their REST API, we can use that, and then we can check that. Okay, now this scheduler integration, what it will try to do, every 5 minutes it will trigger the process, and then it will pick all the transactions available in the Salesforce system, and one transaction by transaction it will send to loyalty point API, and it will get the success response, and then immediately what we are trying to do, we are trying to insert that into database also. Insert that records into database also. Why are we doing that? As I told you, for example, like there are 10 lakh customers, they wanted to understand and analyze the behavior of these 10 lakh credit card customers. How are they behaving? For example, like there are 1 lakh customers who are using the credit card very effectively and they wanted to be given some offers. Now all those details are available in our database, right? Now we can build a platform report exactly on top of this particular database, and then we can customize the offers to those customers also. Okay, for that reason, for analytical purpose, we are trying to insert the same records to database also as soon as we receive the response from third party API. That is the reason this particular line is available and it is connected to a database. Okay, this is not third, but this is ICICI database, exactly ICICI database. Okay, now see here. Now this particular scheduler, if you observe here, I have used API because it should be invoked by a consumer. But here we used a scheduler based integration, and we will be utilizing batch processing as part of this particular scheduler. Why? Because you are getting more data, right? Here I told you 1,000. For example, like every day I told one time I wanted to trigger the scheduler integration and get all the transactions available in Salesforce system, and then it should use the REST API and then insert into database. Now, for example, like for 24 hours, how many transactions may happen out of 10 lakh customers? It may almost like for example, like take 10% of the customers use the credit card. 10% means out of 10 lakh people, 1 lakh customers. Okay, 1 lakh customers used today. Now all those 1 lakh transactions has to be fetched from here and then need to process it properly, right? Now to process 1 lakh transactions, you cannot do it in a normal regular manner. For that reason, you should go for a batch processing, and we will be aware of batch processing also. And batch processing is one of the most important concepts in MuleSoft. Most of the interviews, they will be asking, have you done batch processing? And then they'll be asking some related questions for it. Even as part of our MCD level 1 certification also, if you see, there will be questions related to batch processing. For that reason, in this scheduler API or scheduler integration, we will use batch processing and then try to do the processing of the data. Okay, fine. Now then, for example, now one customer, I told you 25,000 rupees he has spent, and then he got some points. Okay, that same way he used the credit card for 3 to 4 months, and he accumulated around 10,000 points. Okay, see that he accumulated around 10,000 points. Now there are 10,000 points with this particular customer. Okay, 10,000 points, 10,000 reward points. Now what he has to do? What is the next process? What is the next process? The next process is ICICI mobile banking will provide a provision to buy some items or to buy some coupons. Okay, for example, if you go and see the mobile application, right, in that they'll be having a feature. Okay, how to if they click on redeem points, right, redeem points, what happens is there'll be a portal. Okay, ICICI portal, e-commerce portal. In that they will have some items, maybe home appliances or whatever the items they have tied up with exactly. Already they will have that items, and they will mention the points also. For example, like for this item you need 7,000 points, for this item you need 25,000 points, for this item you need 10,000 points. That way they will be mentioning it. Along with that, they will be providing some coupons also. For example, like they tied up with Amazon, Flipkart. Okay, Flipkart, what they will try to do, for a 1,000 rupees voucher of Amazon, you need to spend around 4,000 points. Okay, 4,000 points. Otherwise, we'll take it as for 1,000 rupees Amazon voucher, 1,000 rupees Amazon voucher, we require 2,000 points. Now customer has how many? 10,000 points. Okay. Now this customer wanted to claim the Amazon voucher. Claims the Amazon voucher. He went to the mobile application. Okay. From mobile application, he initiated the transaction to claim the Amazon voucher. For example, like 1,000 rupees Amazon voucher. What happens now? We have provided a claim coupon API, and then for 1,000 rupees Amazon voucher, what is the points required? 2,000 points. Okay, 2,000 points. Sorry. Now the same request will be triggered to third-party loyalty system API, and these 2,000 points will be reduced. 2,000 points will be reduced for that particular customer. Now how many points will be having? 8,000 points only. Out of 10,000, 2,000 points will be minus from his 10,000, and then a voucher, Amazon voucher ID will be generated, and then it will be sent back to the customer. For example, AMZ 1234 is the voucher ID. Now, as in a see here, the request is initiated, and then it consumed the third-party loyalty API, and it reduced the 2,000 points out of available 10,000 points, and then the response is sent back to the mobile application with the coupon ID. Exactly. Okay. Now Amazon coupon ID is AMZ1234. Okay. This particular customer has this particular ID. Now for this particular purpose, we developed our API, claim coupon API. Okay. Now this customer, he hasn't utilized another 8,000 points. It is there. He may use it in a later point of time. For our understanding, I'm explaining the total concept. He has not used the entire points exactly. Now he has 1,000 rupees Amazon voucher. Okay. Now what he has to do? He can go to Amazon website and he can pay, right? Okay, he can pay, and he can buy some items and pay with this Amazon voucher. For example, now the customer visited Amazon website. Okay, customer visited Amazon mobile application. In this journey, this is ICICI only. Okay, now Amazon mobile application he entered, and then he selected an item for 2,000 rupees. Okay, he selected an item for 2,000 rupees, and then he wanted to pay the amount. Now what happens? In the final payment page, he will be given the option of entering the voucher as well as entering the card details. Now the 2,000 rupees, he has to pay 2,000 rupees, but what is the amount he has? 1,000 rupees voucher. Now what he will do? He will try to enter the Amazon voucher for 1,000 rupees, Amazon 1234 voucher, and rest 1,000 rupees he may use a debit card or a credit card, whatever it is. For example, like in this scenario, we'll try to see he has used debit card for 1,000 rupees and Amazon voucher for 1,000 rupees. Now see, already Amazon and ICICI already has a partner agreement. Exactly. Okay, whenever they use that particular Amazon voucher on Amazon website, now ICICI API will be triggered. What API? Redeem or revoke coupon. For example, redeem coupon API will be triggered at this point of time. What happens? This Amazon voucher ID will come, and then it will check for that whether coupon ID is available with the loyalty third party API system or not. If it is available, it will tell okay. It will redeem the coupon. Okay, it will redeem the coupon, and then it says to the Amazon, this coupon ID is valid and you can go ahead. You can go ahead with the payment. Now this 1,000 is completed and rest debit card payment 1,000 is successful. Automatically this particular transaction will be successful on Amazon. Okay, here if you observe, the transaction has been initiated. This particular transaction means the request has been initiated from Amazon's website, not from the ICICI website. For that reason, Amazon and ICICI has to come into agreement, and then they will be integrating their Amazon systems to ICICI systems exactly with the help of this API, redeem API. Okay, now this is done. See, as part of this, automatically this coupon details will be again updated in the third party system, and then it will be giving the response. That is one part. Okay, done now. Now, for example, the same customer, he ordered this item, right, for 2000 rupees. He wanted to send a return. He didn't like the item and then he wanted to send a return. He booked the request for return in the Amazon. Now, what happens? He should be refunded, right? He should be refunded, right? Okay, for that reason, what happens now? How did he pay? He paid 1000 rupees as Amazon voucher and 1000 rupees from debit card. Now Amazon will handle in such a way, they will request for revoking this particular coupon, okay. We will revoke this particular coupon okay, and then we'll try to send it to third party loyalty API, and then the corresponding data will be updated, and then we'll send a response to Amazon. Okay, for that reason, we have exposed redeem API and revoke API to Amazon. Okay, in this context, fine. Okay, apart from this, one more reward sync scheduler integration is there. Exactly, what is this doing? We are trying to replicate all the transactions which happened in loyalty point API, loyalty point system, in the Salesforce system also, okay, in a separate object. See, normally database consists of tables, and tables consists of data. Exactly, the Salesforce system, the same way we call data tables as objects. Okay, objects, there we will store the data in the form of records. Exactly, okay, simple. It is a system where it will hold some data, that's it. Okay, and it has some user interface also, and it is one of the famous and widely used CRM systems. Exactly, okay. Because why I have chosen Salesforce system, because Salesforce connector is also one of the mostly used connectors in the industry, integration industry. Okay, for that reason, obviously we need to uh, have a different kind of connectors in our project, right? For that reason, we have chosen Salesforce as the backend system in this particular scenario. Okay, any questions so far? This is the high level introduction of the project. Exactly, okay. Now what happens, we will break each and everything, and then we will see how to develop those things in the further sessions. Okay, if you have any questions, I'll wait for a while. I'll take a pause here. You can go ahead and ask your questions. Any questions in the project? Yes, someone is asking. Okay, okay, then if no questions, then we'll proceed further. See, this particular part, what we will try to do, we'll try to come back and then see. Okay, now I will not touch this. We'll touch this after our next topics. Exactly. Okay, now I just wanted to understand what is monolithic application. Okay, this is a generic concept. Okay, it's not related to MuleSoft. It is a generic concept, and as an integration developer, it is your responsibility to understand these kind of terminologies. Okay, what is a monolithic application? See, what happens is, in the earlier days, before the microservices architecture came into picture, most of the industries actually used to follow this monolithic application design. What is that? Collection of all business services into one application. As the name suggests, if you see, mono means one, right? Mono means one. All the business services are packed into one application. That is known as monolithic application. For example, if I take a banking application, I took some 4 to 5 services. What is that? Login, login, password reset, user ID recover, check balance, and fund transfer. See, bank will have hundreds of services, but for our simple and easy understanding, what I have taken all 4 to 5 services as a monolithic application. Now, what I will try to do, I'll try to develop an application, one single application, one single project. In that, all the code will be packed into one project only. One project only. Now, banking mobile application will trigger that particular request, and for every request, the same API will be giving the response. We'll receive the request and we'll receive the response. For example, what happened is I got some issue with check balance. I found a bug and I wanted to resolve that, and we resolved it. We have tested it in testing, tested it in local, as well as again we have tested it in the pre-prod environments. Pre-prod means like non-prod environments like UAT or SIT and all environments. Now we wanted to promote it to production. Now, see, I have a problem with check balance feature, but now whenever I wanted to deploy this application, the other service also as part of these applications, whenever you wanted to deploy this, the other service also will be down. It's not so easy like what we think. What happens now, the other service also will be down. For example, like they have given a time 10 to 11. It is non-business banking hours. For that reason, they have given us the 10 to 11 as the deployment time. Now I have fixed this bug, right? What happens? I need to redeploy the entire application. Okay, redeploy the entire applications. At that point of time, even login will not work, user ID recover will not work, forget password, other services, any services which are under this particular application will not work. The problem is with a different feature, but the entire application is not working. Okay, and as the time progressed, what happened is everything they almost all the services are put into one project. It became so complex, and for now I told you one feature. Tomorrow you have another issue with some uh, other feature, some other feature. Now also you need to do the same thing. Okay, these rest other services will not work for that 1 hour. This way, if you think there are hundreds of services in this particular application or particular project, every day you'll have one or the other problem. And then what happens? For this particular feature, you're stopping the other services also. This will cause a lot of inconvenience to the customers as well as the loss to the bank also. Because if you don't have a user experience, proper user experience, almost they will lose the customers. Because of that reason, now industry found some solution called microservices architecture. Okay, microservices architecture. Now, before going to microservices architecture, I just wanted to understand the advantages and disadvantages of monolithic application. Okay, see, it is simple to develop because you have only one application. It will be simple to develop in the initial phases. As the time progresses and more number of services are getting added, then it will become complex. Okay, because as it is simple, it will be faster to develop. It is only one applications and easy to test and easy to deploy also, because it is a simple one application only. There is no more number of applications or dependencies to check exactly. For that reason, these are all the advantages of monolithic application. I want to see the disadvantages also. What are all the disadvantages? The complexity increases with time. Why complexity is increasing with the time? For example, like today only 5 services are there. Tomorrow a total 100 services have been added to that particular existing applications. Okay, the code increases, right? The complexity increases, right? And you can you don't know where the code of that particular feature is available. You need to spend more time, and you need to spend more time in testing all those things. Exactly, as the time progresses, the complexity increases with time, as the number of features are getting added. As complexity increases, it will be difficult to understand also. Okay, now I have written a slower response huge application. Why? For example, like 100 services are available in the same application. Okay, now the response time also will become very slow. The reason being, for example, I just want to tell, there is a Word document with 1 lakh words. Okay, now the same Word document I have updated with 10 lakh words. Okay, if you compare the 1 lakh word document size with the 10 lakh word document size, obviously the 10 lakh word document size will be very higher. And when you try to open the document also, what happens? 1 lakh word document will be opened very faster compared to the 10 lakh word document. Why? It will take some time to load the content and all. The same way, when the application is huge, when the application is very huge, what happens? The response time will be higher. Instead of, for example, at 200 milliseconds, it is taking 300 milliseconds. The extra 100 milliseconds will be added to our, and because of that reason, it will be slower. See, deploy the entire application even for a small update, and this will make the other services to not to work. Okay, and because there are hundreds of services in the same applications, what happens now? It will become less reliable, because for each and every feature there may be an issue 1 or 2 days exactly, and you need to resolve that. After resolving it, again redeploy, and it is less reliable, right? And other services are dependent on other service. For example, like there is a problem in login feature. Okay, even the other applications will not, other services will not get used, right, in the same time where the downtime is available. Okay, the same way, dependent, less reliable, all these other disadvantages, and it was causing a lot of inconvenience to the customers of big enterprises. Exactly, at that point of time, they came into a, they discovered a solution of microservices. Okay, it's a very simple and a simple solution, but it is made with very good common sense. Exactly. Okay, simple solution, it's not very great difficulty. Okay, it is a very, very simple solution. What is that? Microservices. In the name itself, you have what is micro, small services. Okay, you're splitting the entire project into smaller meaningful processes. What are you going to do? For example, like in this particular example, okay, I have packed everything into one application, right? Here I will take this meaningful process login. Okay, I'll create one separate project. Check balance, separate project. Forgot password, one separate project. For each and every service, I'll do a separate project, and then based on that requirement, I will connect the, obviously if there is any requirement for communication between those services, I will try to connect that based on the requirement. Now see here, whenever I have a problem with login services, only this particular login will be down and rest will be working. Whenever I have a problem with check balance, only check balance will not be working, and the dependent services. For example, like there are 100 services, and check balance service is dependent on 5 services. Check balance and other 5 services will not work properly. Rest 94 services will work properly. Okay, the problem is solved, right? Okay, that is the advantage of microservices. See here, split the entire project into smaller processes which are meaningful. Developing each business service as a separate project or application. We are trying to do the same thing. Just now we discussed, right? We're going to do the same thing. Now, what are the advantages exactly? Okay, whenever you're trying to decompose a complex process into small processes, obviously it is easier to understand and less complexity also. Okay, less complexity. When it is less complexity, obviously you can develop faster in the long run, not in the short run. Because in the first initial phases, what happens is you need to understand the total enterprise ecosystem, and you need to understand what are the reusable APIs. You need to do all those architecture, then only it will be faster for development in the long run, not in the initial phases it will be slower, but in the long run, enterprises look for solutions in the long run. They never look for only 6 months or 1 year. Okay, in the long run, obviously your applications can be developed faster. Why we can develop the applications faster? For example, you wanted to do some service. Okay, already there are other services which can be reused. For example, like 30% work is already done. This service can be reused, and only you will be working on 70%. Now obviously you can reuse this and then develop faster, right? Okay, for that reason I have written it as develop faster. When you broke the complex process into simpler processes, it will be easy to understand and easy to manage, because you can allocate or delegate that particular APIs or the process to different people, and then it is easy to manage. And I told you a reusability functionality. Now you can reuse the same existing functionality whenever it is applicable. Okay, it is scalable easily. What is the meaning of scalability? Any idea? Any idea? Scalability? See, this should be an interactive session. Exactly. Okay. It is not always a one-to-many session. Okay. If you have any queries also, you should stop me and ask me. That is one thing. And the second thing, when I ask some questions, it would be good. See, whether it is right or wrong, I am not expecting the right answer all the time. If it is wrong also, that's fine. If you don't know also, you can tell me don't know. Okay. That's why now the session will be interactive. Otherwise, what happens is it is like I'm simply talking and you are listening. That's it. And I understand that, okay, whether these people are listening or not, I don't understand, right? Whether you people are listening to me or not. Okay. If you don't know the answer, that's fine. You people can tell. Anyone has idea about
Scalable
scalable?
means, yeah, issuing or assigning the resources as per the requirement or the usage.
Okay. 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 Fine. Yeah. Whether scalability is possible in microservices, sorry, not microservices, monolithic application. Even they're also possible, right? Exactly.
Would be.
Yeah, because I'll just, for example, this is monolithic application and we have services. We have the entire code here. Okay, this is monolithic application. This is microservices application, and each application has a project and some connectivity between them for communication. Okay, this way. Now, for example, I'll take an example of maybe Flipkart, for example, Amazon or Flipkart. I'll take Flipkart. Now, I think within another 1 week, we'll be getting a big billion day, right? Whenever you have a big billion day, what happens? What happens? The huge traffic will be there for a website, from Flipkart website. For example, every day, the average number of customers visiting Flipkart website is, for example, I think it has some 50 lakh customers. Okay, every day. But on a big billion days, that 3 or 4 days or 5 days, whatever they have suggested for big billion days, the traffic receiving is almost like 1.5 crores per day. There is a triple in the traffic. Okay, there is a triple in the traffic. Whether the same resources can handle that particular traffic, the same servers? No. What happens? The servers will crash and then they will not be able to handle that particular traffic. Whenever they are announcing that particular big billion day, what those people will do? They will try to increase the resources for the corresponding systems. For example, now this is a monolithic application. They wanted to increase the resources. What happens? Now they have to increase the resources for the all services or all features. But here I have broken them into individual features, right? I can increase the resources for that particular project or application or particular feature. For example, there are 100 services which are being used, and out of this 100, only Flipkart analyzed 50 resources, 50 services required scaling. 50 doesn't require. No scaling required. In the microservices architecture, they can easily go for this. They will increase the resources for this 50 and they will not increase the resources for this particular 50. But in monolithic application, irrespective of whatever the application is, whatever the service is, you need to increase the resources for all 100 services. Okay, that is also a major advantage in monolithic applications. This for whatever resources, for whatever services you require the resources, for them only you can increase the resources, otherwise not required. Is that clear? Any questions here? Okay, fine. Next, reliable. Why reliable? For example, if there is a break, if there is a bug in one particular feature or application, what we'll try to do, we'll resolve that and then we'll deploy that particular application only. Now what happens? Only that particular service is down, rest other services are working properly. Okay, for that reason, obviously the more reliability is there when compared to the monolithic application, and they are independent to each other. Obviously, see, most of the applications are independent to each other, and if there is any dependency, we'll try to establish the communication and try to communicate with each other. Okay, now what are the disadvantages? See, even microservices architecture has some disadvantages. It doesn't mean that this is the best method or best approach to do the work, but still the advantages are more in number. That is the reason we are trying to follow the microservices architecture. Now, if you observe what we have done, we have developed each service as a separate project. Got it right? And whenever required, we need to establish the inter-service communication. For example, this is one service, this is one service. You need to establish the communication if there is a requirement for it. If it is a single application, the entire code will communicate internally. But now this particular service is different, this particular service is different. I need to establish the communication for that, and that extra burden will be there. Okay, extra burden will be there because there is a communication process. One service should communicate with the other service, and it will take some time, and that will lack the response a little bit comparatively. That is one thing which I can tell you. And impact of change in one service on other services. For example, like there is a change in this particular service. Okay, you need to analyze what is the impact of this particular service on this one or this one or this one dependent services. For example, like there are three other dependent services. You need to understand if you change here, what will be the effect on the other three services. Okay, that is the another thing which you need to analyze. And one more thing is, like, MuleSoft is also a costly affair because you need to buy the vCore. For example, like whenever you go for a Cloud Hub environment, what happens? You need to buy the vCore, and it involves the licensing cost. Okay, maybe for example, like if you wanted to buy one vCore, two vCore, or three vCore, okay, this way you need to purchase from the MuleSoft, exactly like, and then you will be deploying the applications based on that particular vCore availability. Now, instead of, see here, this is monolithic application. It has 100 services. For 100 services, you're deploying it on a as a one project. It requires less resources comparatively. Now I broke that 100 services into, for example, like 100 applications or 100 projects. Now what happens? For each and every project, it requires a minimum RAM and CPU. Okay, minimum RAM and CPU, right? Now what happens? For 100 applications, comparatively, it will be more vCore, right? More vCore, right? Or more CPU and more memory, right? vCore is nothing but memory and CPU which is allocated to that particular worker. Basically, wherever you deploy your applications, right? vCore is nothing but the processing power of the worker, the memory and CPU. Now, for 100 applications, memory and CPU is very higher. What happens here? You need to buy more vCore. Buy more vCore, more costly. Okay, for implementing microservices, it is a costly affair. But despite having these many disadvantages, why enterprises are going for microservices? Because of its flexibility and convenience. Okay, this particular cost is negligible before those advantages. For that reason, most of the big enterprises will go for microservices architecture. Is that clear? Any questions so far?
No, sir.
Okay. Now, see, these two are general concepts. Okay, what are those? Monolithic application as well as microservices. Now I wanted to introduce a concept, API led connectivity. Okay, what is this API led connectivity? API led connectivity is nothing but it is a approach to implement microservices architecture in MuleSoft. Okay, MuleSoft has specified a approach or method to implement microservices in MuleSoft related projects. Okay, that's it, simple. API-led connectivity is a approach or strategy which is specified by MuleSoft for implementing microservices in MuleSoft related projects. Okay, that's what. Now I'll explain the API-led connectivity. See here, it is an integration strategy to transfer data between applications in a methodical way through reusable and purposeful APIs. See, whenever you're trying to design or develop some APIs, MuleSoft told it is one of the best practices to follow API-led connectivity. But you should know, like, what is API-led connectivity? API-led connectivity is an integration strategy. Obviously, integration strategy, what it will do, it will try to transfer the data between applications. But you can do it randomly. But here in this particular approach, they're telling you can do it in a structured way, in a methodical way. How? Through reusable APIs and some meaningful APIs. Whenever you're designing the architecture for this particular project, you need to understand which are reusable, which are meaningful, and then only you will be designing these many number of APIs are required for this particular project. Randomly will not pick for this particular system, okay, one API, for this particular process one API, will not randomly pick. We'll try to pick it up, analyze the entire project, and then decide, okay, these will be a reusability. Maybe there is a possibility of reusability in the future. For that reason, we'll break this particular one and we'll develop a API. That way, architect will decide like how many APIs have to be available in the project based on the reusability and meaningful process. Exactly. Now, in the API-led connectivity, they will try to develop APIs. That is for sure. But how do they develop, or how do they come up with different APIs exactly? For that reason, they have given some layers. What are that? System layer, process layer, and experience layer. Okay, system layer, process layer, and experience layer. APIs are developed to play a specific role, such as accessing data from source systems. It will access the data from the systems, and then it will combine the data or do the necessary logic or processing in the processes and providing them to the end user. This is the total process which needs to be followed. We'll understand in a while exactly, like I'll tell you in a detailed manner. Just wait for another few minutes. And what is this API-led connectivity? It is a best practice specified by MuleSoft. Is it mandatory to follow? Not required. For example, like in the this scenario is there. Now this transaction API will be broken into 3 APIs: experience API, process API, and system API. Is it mandatory to follow that particular approach? No, you can do one API also and then you can do the processing. But still, the industry has given certain standards and guidelines, okay, for that reason, and there is a useful in it. There is a usefulness in it. Because of that reason, we are trying to follow that API-led connectivity and trying to develop more number of APIs, despite having some cost effect in the project. Okay, fine. Now, okay, now I'll take an example here. See, for example, I'll just take this is mobile application. Okay, this is web application. This mobile application, okay, wanted to do some process, okay, and then it should update some of the end systems exactly. Okay, now what we have done, we have divided this MuleSoft layer into 3 layers exactly. MuleSoft integration layer into 3 layers. What is that? Experience layer, process layer, and system layer. What are we going to do? The system APIs will try to unlock the data or pull the data from the respective systems, okay, and then it will pass the data to process APIs, and it will process the data. Sorry, it will access the data, or it will unlock the data, and it will send or pass the data to process APIs or upstream API. We can call it as upstream API or process API. Why I'm calling it as upstream API? For example, like sometimes there is a possibility directly whatever the data we get from the end system, the same data has to be passed to mobile application. There is no process required. At that point of time, what happens is experience API will directly communicate to system API. There is no concept of process API in that particular context exactly. But whenever there is a requirement for doing some business process, then obviously you need to create a process API, you need to orchestrate, transform, enrich, all those things will be done in the process layer and then pass the response to experience API. I've used, what is that? This is one of the main features of ESB tool. What is ESB tool? Enterprise Service Bus. Okay. Enterprise Service Bus. MuleSoft is a ESB tool. That's why they call it as Mule ESB also. Okay, MuleSoft developer or Mule ESB developer. This way you will be seeing the job openings, right? That's why it is called as ESB. What are the main features of ESB? It can transform, orchestrate, and enrich the data. Okay. Any doubts in transformation, orchestration, and enrichment? Aware of what is transformation, what is orchestration, what is enrichment?
No, sir.
Okay. What is MuleSoft exactly?
It is the integration platform.
Okay. What it will do? What it will do? Yeah, everyone knows it is an integration platform. Okay. What it will try to do?
It is to integrate the two individual applications like external applications.
Okay, it will try to integrate different systems, not two exactly, different systems, maybe different applications, right? Now, what is the core essence of integrating the applications? Why is it required?
Transform some data from one application to another application, and also
Okay.
handle the APIs.
Okay. Yeah. Now there are different applications, and MuleSoft came into picture, and it is trying to provide the integration between all those applications. For example, if a Telugu person is speaking to a Hindi person, Telugu person doesn't know Hindi, Hindi person doesn't know Telugu, is it possible to communicate?
No,
Then if a
they need
translator
one
come in,
middleware.
if a translator comes into picture, what happens? This Telugu message will be converted into Hindi, and then it will be passed to Hindi person. Now he will understand that Hindi message. He will give the Hindi response. Now translator will again convert that into Telugu response, and Telugu person will
Telugu
receive the Telugu response. Now what happens?
communication purpose.
Yeah,
Data
this
will
is
be transferred
translator.
from.
This is Telugu. This is Hindi. Now what happened? The communication has been established between Telugu person and Hindi person, and the transfer of messages is happening.
Yes.
The same job will be done by MuleSoft. Now Salesforce system should communicate with database. For example, Salesforce will not understand database language, database will not understand Salesforce language. MuleSoft. For simple understanding. Now MuleSoft, what is it doing? It will try to transform the data from received from Salesforce, which is understandable by DB. Or for example, like Salesforce given date of birth, but the DB required age of that particular customer. I know date of birth. Can I calculate the age? That is called enrichment. I'm trying to take the existing data and I'm enriching the data. Can I do that with the help of MuleSoft? Yes, it is possible. You have database
Yes, we
language.
can do it.
Yes, you can do enrichment, you can do transformation. For example, like Salesforce data format is different, DB data format is different. Converting that is possible. We can do it with the help of transformation. And what is the meaning of orchestration? What is the meaning of orchestration? For example, I'll take one small example. This is our API. We have source, process, and error handling. Okay. Now, you received a request and the process will be triggered. Now this process is triggered. Now there are certain steps exactly. This is a transform message, for example. Okay, I have used it. Now there are two steps here. One, you need to this is one REST API, third party one. You need to consume this, and this is another maybe Salesforce system. You need to connect to that. This is DB. You need to connect to this, and then after finishing the process, you need to send the response back to the consumer. See, I'm telling MuleSoft or this particular flow, do this first, second this, third this, fourth this, fifth this. Okay. Then this particular thing is known as orchestration. Okay. One after the other. Or if there is a possibility for parallel processing, you'll mention that. It means that what is happening here, we'll take the example of orchestrator. There is a music band performing the music. What happens there? For example, drums person is there. Okay. Violin person is there. Flute person is there. Some other guitar person is there. They are without any coordination, they're trying to randomly playing the music. Now, what is the output? Noise or music? Noise, right? Now there came into a picture one orchestrator, and he has given the notes to them when to play what exactly. Okay, what are the timings, and he will be directing them in the right direction. Now what happens? The same people are creating a music. Okay, that particular order of processing is known as orchestration. Is that clear? Any question here?
Yes, sir, clear.
Okay, see, these are the basic functionalities of a MuleSoft tool, any integration tool. I'm not telling about MuleSoft. Basic functionalities and the main features of any integration tool. Now, yes, see here. We are taking system API, we'll take the data, we'll process it in the process layer, and then we'll pass it to the experience layer. I just told you an example. There may be sometimes whenever you wanted to take the system, data from the system, the end system, and then there is no change in the data, directly experience API will take the data and then it will pass it to the corresponding application. Okay, there can be the front-end systems, can be mobile application or IoT devices or whatever it is exactly. Okay, or desktop applications, there may be different applications in the real-time world. Whatever it is, we'll try to go for a 3-layered architecture, and whenever there is no requirement for any processing, we'll escape the processing layer and then directly experience to system layer is also possible. Okay, we are telling the same in this particular step. APIs are developed to play a specific role such as accessing data from source systems. This is system. Combining this data in process layer, and experience for the end user experience. Now, I'll go individual. System API. What is system API? You have seen the picture,
Get the
right?
data from
Systems. Ideally, for each system, there will be a separate system API. Sometimes, if there is any business requirement, 2 systems can be combined and then get the data from the 2 systems also. You can go for one system API for 2 different systems. Okay, it is dependent on the project. It is not a mandatory rule. Okay, you can go for based on your requirement. And system APIs can be reusable because the same system API can be used by a different process API, right? Or a different experience API, right? For that reason, reusable system calls. Reusable system calls can be developed as a system API. Consume data from the system API and pass it to the, I used a word called upstream API. Why upstream, not process API? Because upstream API means it can be process, it can be experience also. Sometimes I told you, whenever there is no requirement to process the data whichever is received from the system, okay, I will directly pass that particular data to the experience API. In that particular context, I can call it experience API as the upstream API. Okay, upstream means the API which is calling the underlying API. Experience API is calling the system API to get the data. Normally what happens, experience API will call the process API will call the system API. Okay, now system API will become the downstream API for process and experience API. Okay, now I'm telling it as whenever you wanted to process the send the data to the upstream APIs, we can use system API. Okay, examples of systems: Salesforce, database, FTP, web services, all these kind of things will come into picture as system APIs. Now, consume data from system APIs and shape data as per the requirement. Okay, and transaction process and loyalty process. In the same example, like the transaction process and loyalty process, will be trying to shape the data as per our requirement and send it to the experience API. Now, experience API. Reconfigure data consumed from downstream API so that it is easily consumed by the intended audience. Exactly. Okay, there is a mobile API, mobile experience API. Mobile application is receiving the is triggering the mobile experience API, for example, and web application will trigger the web application API. Okay, this is the way normally the communication will happen. If it is a different consumer, okay, different consumers has different requirements, then we'll go for different experience APIs. What are we trying to do here? Reconfigure data. Yesterday we discussed, right? Whenever mobile application requires less data and web application requires more data, then we'll go for one instance is whenever we require more and less data, then we can go for experience API, different experience APIs for mobile application and web application. If they require the same data and the security policies are also same, everything is same, then there is no point in going for different APIs. The same API can be utilized for both mobile application and web application also. It depends on the requirement. And whenever you wanted to reconfigure the data, we can use experience API. Reconfigure means what? You got the same data from process API, you can reduce that, filter it, and then send it to mobile applications. And the same data will be passed to web applications without any changes. Okay, just now I told you the difference, right? This is the difference exactly. Now, earlier days, exactly before this microservices architecture, whenever they wanted to develop an API, initially they used to have web applications, right? Most of the time they used to have web applications rather than mobile applications. Okay, Now see, there is already a web application developed for some process, order status, order history, and aggregated customer data. Okay. Now immediately what happened? The mobile usage has been so high, and then the purpose for mobile applications also increased a lot. Okay. At that point of time, what happened is, despite mobile application is web application is ready, they were not able to reuse this particular logic because of the technology change. Because of the technology change, for that reason, again they need to invest the whole time and money to develop the same logic for mobile. For mobile, they are using the same end systems, but again the entire logic is rewritten, and then they have developed the mobile API. But whenever this microservices architecture came into picture with the help of API-led connectivity in MuleSoft especially, okay, this is the way they try to develop it. If you observe, system APIs, process APIs are same for both mobile API and web API. Okay, in the same context, web application API is ready. Okay, now they introduced a mobile application. Just simply develop this mobile application and then tag them to the process APIs. That's enough. There is no need of developing the entire logic, right? If you observe, entire this particular logic is ready, you can reuse this entire logic. Okay, this is the overall a picture of implementation of microservices using API-led connectivity. But here I'll take you one example and then drive you through the explanation. Okay, now this is a mobile application, right? This is web application. Now mobile application, think it as a e-commerce API, and this is Flipkart. Okay, Flipkart, one customer has used Flipkart for the last 1 year, and he wanted to check the history of his orders for the last 3 months. Now he triggered that particular request from mobile application, and our mobile API, experience API, has been, see here, experience API has been triggered by the mobile application, and then we received the request for order history for 3 months to the process API of our ecosystem. Now this process API has triggered and consuming to one more other process API, and then orders API, order system API. It is calling another customer's process API and order system API. See here in the earlier in the earlier scenario, I told you from experience API directly I can call system API, right? But here if I see, I took this example because I wanted to show you we can call process API from another process API. See here. Now this customer's process API is again triggering two other system APIs, because this particular enterprise, Flipkart, has saved some customers' data in SAP customers and some customers' data in Salesforce customers. Okay, they used both the ecosystems exactly. Now it received the response here. Okay, it received the response here, and then it collectively sent the response to this particular order history API. And from this particular system, if you see here, for 3 systems, only single system API, order system API. Okay, it depends on the, but here one system API, one system API, one system API, one system API. But here 3 systems for one system API. Now it will also send the data. The entire business logic orchestration is done here, and then we'll send the response to mobile API. Mobile API will send the response to mobile applications, and it will receive the response, and it will be displayed. Okay. Here, if you observe, the same request has been initiated in web application. What happens? It will touch the web API. Again, the request will go to whom? Process API, order history process API. The same process will repeat. Whether reusability has been achieved? Only experience API came into picture extra. Rest of the things we are reusing. Okay, that is the power of microservices architecture and API-led connectivity. Okay, any questions so far? Okay, if there are no questions, then we'll try to connect in another 15 minutes. Okay, 11:20 is the time. Okay, 15, right? 11:37. We'll connect at 11:37 and then continue the further process.
This conference will now be recorded.
Any questions so far? If you have any questions, please let me know. We'll take a while here. Okay, we'll take a pause for 1-2 minutes. If there are any questions, we'll answer that and then we'll go ahead. If no questions, please let me know. Then I'll start with the further topic. Okay, I'll take the silence as no questions. Okay, we'll see the advantages of API-led connectivity. Okay, fine. Is my voice clear and the screen visible?
Yes, Mahesh.
Oh, yeah, thank you. Now, see, we have seen what is API-led connectivity, how how it is useful in implementing the microservices. Okay, we'll see what are all the advantages. What are the advantages? Obviously, the first advantage will be reusability. Okay, I already discussed this particular point. And the second one is scalability. We have discussed this particular point also. The time to market is faster in the long run. Why I have written this particular point in the long run? Because in the initial phases, to figure out what are all the reusable APIs and for developing them, all these things will take little time. Okay, in the initial phases, whenever it is an enterprise, obviously it will take some time to figure out what are all the reusable ones and how to categorize them into different APIs exactly. Okay, for that reason it will take some time. But once that particular phase is completed, the time to market for the other applications or other services will be faster. For that reason, I have written it as in the long run, it will be faster, but in the short run, in the initial phases, it will be delayed. Because for one application, we are trying to develop more number of services. For example, like one application, I'm developing experience API, process API, and system API. Okay, 3 APIs. Instead of developing one API, I'm developing 3 APIs. It will take obviously the time longer, right? For that reason, I'm just telling you in the initial phases, it will be slower. In the long run, it will be faster. And it will be easy to manage because we already broke them into manageable pieces, right? For that reason, it will be very easy to manage. Okay. Now, any change in one layer, no changes required in the other layers. Okay, this is also one advantage. See, whenever you change the logic inside the API apart from request or response, okay, then there is no point in that will not be affecting the other APIs. If you change the request and response structure, then the other APIs will be affected. Most of the time, whenever you have a logical changes or orchestration changes inside the API, there is no problem with the other APIs. Okay, that is also one of the advantages. Now, even there are disadvantages. Okay, why? Obviously, I told you, right? Instead of one API, we're developing more API, so it takes more time in the initial phase. And more APIs means more vCores, and obviously the purchase cost or the maintenance cost will be higher. Okay, this is also one of the disadvantages. But still, people go for this. The reason being, the flexibility and the convenience is more when compared to the disadvantages. That is the reason people go for API-led connectivity approach. Okay, fine. But you should be very careful enough to go for microservices architecture. Okay, what happened is in the industry, some architects, what happened is they wantedly or unwantedly they design in such a way that for not required applications also they went for microservice architecture, and the cost of maintaining those applications has become so high. Okay, recently recently Amazon Prime, okay, Amazon Prime migrated from microservices. First, initially, Amazon Prime was on monolithic application, and then they migrated to microservices architecture. Then from microservices architecture to again they migrated to monolithic application kind of architecture, and the cost is reduced by almost 40%. Okay, the cost is reduced by 40%. That is why it is very, very important as an architect for you to decide whether it is really required to go for microservices architecture and keep the number of applications as minimum as possible. Okay, you should understand that particular very thin difference between the requirement and need exactly. Sometimes without any need also they may go for more number of applications, which will consume the more memory and CPU, and the maintenance will be very higher. Okay, that's why you should be very, very careful in picking up the architecture. But most of the industry is going for microservices architecture because it has more convenience. And one more thing is you should be very, very conservative while designing or developing the applications, deciding the applications, the number of applications and all. Okay, you need to follow that particular approach, then it will be good. See, now we understood what is API-led connectivity, okay, and how to implement microservices using API-led connectivity. If I go to the first high-level diagram, any questions? Okay, if I go to the initial diagram of the project, see here, I told you just an API here, transaction API or claim coupon API, redeem coupon API. But I haven't told you the API-led approach and all exactly. Now we will try to break this transaction API, okay, and then we'll utilize our API-led connectivity architecture, and then we'll see how we can decompose that in a proper manner. Okay, now for example, your transaction system, that Salesforce system has to be updated from mobile application and web applications. Okay, the customers can handle the transactions from web application or mobile applications. Now, for example, for each application, we have decided to go for one experience API. Here, if you see, what is this? Mobile experience API, okay, and mobile experience API for transaction. Actually, we have two modules, right? What are those two modules? One is transaction, the other one is loyalty. Transaction will come into picture whenever there is a transaction based on the credit card. That particular module comes into transaction, that particular segment comes into transaction module. Whenever there are creation of points, claiming the coupon and revoking the coupon, all those transactions, all those requests will come into loyalty module. Exactly. Okay, for executing the transaction module, now I can do through web application and mobile applications. Okay, for that reason, for mobile transaction, I have created one experience API. For web transaction, I have created another experience API. Okay, then obviously there is some process which needs to be carried out. I am trying to create one process API for transaction. I am creating transaction PAPI, and I need to connect to different systems. Okay, in this particular transactions API, I will be connecting to only Salesforce system. Okay, Salesforce system API will be created here, and then I'll be using that particular transaction system API. In the other ecosystem loyalty module, if you observe here, the same one will have mobile loyalty experience API. Mobile application will have mobile experience loyalty experience API, and web one web loyalty experience API. Okay, and for loyalty, one process API. For loyalty systems, whatever the systems in the backend systems, one system API for that. Exactly. Okay. Now, I have one question. There are three layers. What is that? Experience layer, process layer, and system layer. How experience layer will communicate to process layer will communicate to system layer. It means that how this mobile transaction experience API will communicate to transaction PAPI. Can someone answer? How do you establish the communication from experience API to process API? Idea? No idea.
Actually, by using the request connected, we call that particular service.
Yes. Okay. For example, these are REST APIs, right? Even these are REST APIs, right? And is that the only way to do that? We'll use whatever he said is right. HTTP request connector will be used. Okay. And then we'll try to connect from experience to process, process to system API. And is that the only way? No, actually we have other way also, but 99% of the time we'll go for this HTTP request and then we'll try to use that exactly. But there is, what is the other way? I will develop this experience API and I'll publish it to Exchange, API Exchange, and then I can use it as a connector also. I can import it as I can add the dependency in my, for example, like I publish this process API into Exchange. I'll take that dependency and I will add it in experience API, and then I can use that particular dependency to connect to process API also. But very rarely they will go for this approach. 99% of the time they will go for the HTTP request approach only. Okay. Now see, what are the different things which we will follow? Our APIs will be HTTPS for sure. Normally in all the programs they will try to create one HTTP API and then they'll show that the course is completed. But this time that is not the case. I just wanted to implement all APIs as HTTPS. Okay, your mobile experience API will be HTTPS. Your transaction PAPI will be HTTPS. Because in real time, most of the time, you'll be having only HTTPS services. You will have HTTP also, but still, I'm just telling you. And we need to apply some policies also, right? Okay, we'll secure our API with some policies also. Okay, what are the different policies we'll be applying? For experience API, we'll use JWT validation policy, that is WAUth 2.01. Okay, you have client ID enforcement here, client ID enforcement here, and we'll try to see the basic authentication also. Okay, now every service will be HTTPS, and then that how to see, most of the time you will be consuming HTTP service. Now consuming, how to consume your HTTPS service, that is also there, and we will try to follow one-way TLS and two-way TLS also as part of our project. Now what happens, if you get these kind of scenarios in the real time also, you'll be able to do very easily. What is that one-way TLS, two-way TLS and all, we'll try to discuss. Okay, one-way TLS and two-way TLS or MTLS. We can call this as MTLS also, mutual TLS. And in the interview point of view, it's very important to understand these kind of concepts exactly. Okay, for that reason, all our APIs will be HTTPS and will follow one-way SSL or one-way TLS or one-way TLS, one-way TLS or sorry, two-way TLS or MTLS. We'll follow that, and we'll apply the policies also as part of the policies implementation. I told you, right, there are different policies to be followed, but majorly for experience API, we'll try to follow the JWT validation. For the rest, internal communication. See, why we are going for more security on the experience API? Any specific reason? Because it is exposed to the internet world, if you understand it clearly. But experience to process, this is enterprise level internal communication. Within the enterprise network, this is an internal communication. For that reason, you can go for a less security or no security also. Okay, less security or no security also. But As per my understanding, Reserve Bank of India has declared in such a way for internal communication also, your API should be secured for all the banks. For that reason, I'm trying to use HTTPS as part of the project. Exactly. Fine. Now, is that clear? Any questions here? See, we have used, instead of one transaction API which is depicted here, okay, which is depicted here, I have broke that into two experience API, one process API, and one system API. Okay, this particular layer, whatever we have seen here, is this particular layer. Okay, this particular layer, this transaction API is the representation of these two API. Sorry, these two, not this one. Mobile transaction EAPI, web transaction EAPI, transaction PAPI, transaction SAPI. All these four APIs are the representation of this particular transaction API. But here I showed only one API. But in this integration layer, these four APIs will be available. Okay, request will come, it will come to experience API, it will come to process API, it will come to system API, and then it will go to the end system. And then again, it will traverse back to the consumer or source system. I hope it is clear for everyone. Okay, okay, fine. Next, what we'll try to do, just now we have seen, right, what are all the list of APIs, but I just wanted to show you the list of resources also. Okay, what are all the different resources available under each API exactly. Okay, now if you see, I have categorized them into all experience APIs. We have 4 experience APIs, right, as per the picture. If you observe, how many experience APIs? 1, 2, 3, 4. Okay, all 4 experience APIs. And what are the resources under that particular API exactly? Just give me a moment. These 2 resources are repeated exactly. I just want to remove them. Okay, experience API, 4 APIs, and what are the corresponding resources under that particular API we are going to develop. And then process APIs, 2 process APIs, right? If you go to the picture, you can see 2 process APIs. One transaction PAPI and the other one is loyalty PAPI. See, in industry, right, they may call it as for experience API, XP API or EAPI, okay, or EXP API. This way, they call it as different manner. Exactly. Okay, please remember that EXP API, XP API, or EAPI, all are similar. Okay, it's uh, it's a naming convention which will be followed by different organizations exactly. Okay, and process API, they call it as, some people, some projects, they call it as proc API, some people call it sorry, PAPI. Okay, proc API, PAPI, and system API, SAPI, or system API, or sys API. Okay, this way they will try to call it exactly. Okay, you have to remember that, and then based on that particular project, you need to follow the naming convention. Okay. Now, one more thing, if you observe the experience API, see here, mobile transaction API. How did I name that? If you see what is the source system, what is the context of that particular total journey of that particular request, it is transaction based, and then what is the name of that particular API. Okay, this way, whenever you name your API, right, there should be some convention followed. Okay, it depends on the organization, it depends on the architect of that particular project. Okay, based on that, you need to understand and follow. Okay, most of the time it will, the naming convention of the API will depict the source system, target system, what is the type of API, what is the journey it is going to follow. By the seeing the name itself, sorry, just give me a minute. By seeing the name itself, you'll be able to understand what is that particular API doing. Now, if you observe, I have created a resource post members transactions. Why post? Why post? Why not put or patch or something else? Get.
Post is used to create the new resource.
Okay. In this context, we are creating any new resource?
About that.
Yes, right.
Yeah,
We are
here we
creating a new
create the
transaction. We are creating a new
yes.
transaction, right? For that reason, we are using post. Correct. Whatever you said is right. We are trying to create a new transaction every time we receive it from front end. That's the reason we are using the post method. Okay. We'll try to, I'll try to take a separate session on methods and response codes. Okay, there is a good presentation. What are the frequently used response codes exactly, and when to use which method? Okay, when to use post. See, in the last few weeks, actually, I'm conducting interviews exactly for the senior resources for our organization. Whenever I ask a question like what is the difference between put and patch, or put and post, when to use what exactly, they are very confused exactly. Okay, I don't want you to be the same. Okay, for that reason I will take very crystal clear when to go for put, when to go for patch, when to go for post. All those will be discussed in a very detailed manner. Okay, and we'll try to utilize the same kind of methods whenever there is a requirement for that kind of situation exactly. Okay, now if you see this web transaction experience API, this is for the mobile. Okay, this is for the mobile and this is for the web application. And whether in web application also we are trying to create a resource, right, the same way. That is the reason we are using post only. Okay, next, loyalty. Here we have two resources we wanted to use it for. One is for claiming the coupon, one is for revoking the coupon. That is the reason you have the resources here. Okay, both are used as post only. And web loyalty experience API, again web also claim the coupon and revoke the coupon. Now, when it comes to process API, members transactions, for transaction API, only members transactions is the resource, and loyalty PAPI, we have two resources. One is for coupon claim, one is for coupon revoke, exactly. And the system APIs, transaction system API, members transaction, and loyalty system API, again, coupon claim, coupon revoke. These are the resources we are going to develop and implement as part of our project, exactly. See, we'll see uh, how when to decide post, when to decide put, when to decide patch, and all exactly in the coming session. Okay. Now what I'll try to do, I'll try to okay. See, we wanted to understand what are the duties and responsibilities of a MuleSoft developer. Just give me a moment. Okay. See, I have created some roles and responsibilities, general roles and responsibilities of a views of developer. Exactly. Okay. Now we should understand this because we should know what is our job exactly. Once we are inside the organization, okay, you should, when you know your job properly, you can say no to the irrelevant tasks. Okay, otherwise, right, what happens, you will not be able to say no. What is your task and what is your responsibility, what is not your responsibility, you'll be so confused, you don't have a clear understanding of it, and you'll be in so tense mode. Okay, for that reason we should understand what is the role and what is your responsibility very very clearly. Okay, first, I told you yesterday, whenever we started discussing, once the high level design document and BRD, business requirement document, and the lower level design by technical lead are ready, he will create a Jira story, and then that Jira story will be assigned to you. Okay, maybe for example, like they wanted you to create one system API or process API. Now they will create a Jira story for it. Okay, now what happens? The first step is, after receiving the functional and technical design documents, we will go through that particular documents and then discuss with the lead and business team regarding any queries. For example, like you went through all the documents for corresponding to your API, you got some queries. Now what you should do, you should reach back to your lead and then discuss, and if required, you should involve your business team also for that particular reason, and then your architect, get it clarified. Okay, get it clarified, then you start your work. Now what you should do, Jira story will be to do, exactly. Then you will start it in progress. What is Jira story? What is it? Or what is Jira and all? We'll try to discuss in the coming sessions, exactly. Like what all the software is required, and one software will take it, will create the story, will show you how to configure. What is required as an integration developer? We'll discuss all those things. Don't worry about it. Okay. Now you told your requirements are very clear, and now you can start with the implementation. Okay, now what is the first step? If you remember,
Design
designing the
the
raml.
ramel.
Designing the raml. Can I use designing the raml? It's a best practice to use design API spec, okay, or
అలా
API
API
config
ఉండేసి
spec.
or
ఉక్కిరి బిక్కిరైతే
API spec.
చచ్చిపోయిన వాళ్ళు కూడా ఉన్నారు. అలా ఉంచేసి ఉక్కిరి బిక్కిరై చచ్చిపోయిన వాళ్ళు కూడా ఉన్నారు.
Okay, can you please go on mute? Okay, see, once the requirement is clear, we'll start designing the API specification using raml. Okay, and then what we'll try to do, we'll take the feedback from business team. We'll take the feedback from business team, right? Once we take the feedback from business team, and if they provide, okay, the request response, everything, error response, everything seems proper, then they provide the sign off, and then you can go ahead. Exactly. If there are any changes, you need to make those changes, and then you need to again present it before them. They will say it's okay, you can go ahead, then only you'll start the implementation. Otherwise what happens, you develop the entire project, and then if there are any changes, again you need to go ahead with all the changes. It is always a best practice to do your API specification using raml, because almost all the time we try to develop REST APIs, right, as discussed yesterday. Now what happened, we'll design that, we'll get it validated from the business team. Okay, how do you get it validated from business team? If they are your internal stakeholders, you will share the access to internal stakeholders. If they're external stakeholders, what you'll try to do, you will publish it to Exchange. From Exchange you can create a public portal, right? Okay, you can create, you already have a public portal, you can save that particular API from public portal to that particular people, the respective stakeholders. They can test it and they can come back. Okay, for internal stakeholders there is a way, for external stakeholders there is a different way. We need to understand that, we need to share them the proper request response and everything through this particular raml. They will test it and then they will go ahead with the further process. Now once receiving the confirmation from the business team, I'll generate the flows from the design raml in Anypoint Studio and start implementing the code. Okay, once it is ready, what you'll try to do, you will start implementing the code. Now, after completing the code and testing locally, I'll write M units and make sure 80% coverage is achieved. Okay, most of the time nowadays every organization is trying to go for M units. If there is no such particular step, then no need to develop M units. Most of the projects, they are following CI/CD pipeline, and they will have a step for M units processing, and they'll have some percentage also based on the organization, maybe 70% or 80% or 90%, whatever it is exactly. Most of the projects I observed is 80%. Very few projects 90% I observed. Okay, and at the same time you can go for a peer code review as well as the architect code review as discussed yesterday, and if required we'll make the necessary changes. Then we'll deploy the code into SIT environment, and the QA team will start the testing. I'll try to fix those bugs and ask the testing team to retest. Here your responsibility is to train the tester on the basic functionality of your API. You need to give them the knowledge, business knowledge and all. Okay, or your team lead or business team. Most of the time the developer only will, what is the responsibility of developer only will tell the functionality of that particular API, and you can give the knowledge required for that, and you should give all the postman collection, everything to the tester. Which environment we are doing? SIT environment, system integration testing environment. Okay, next, I told you, right, we need to receive the approval from SIT team through the email, not from Teams or somewhere. You need to receive the sign off email from QA team that so and so application has been thoroughly tested and that is doing completely fine. You can go ahead with the further steps. This is the way you need to receive the approval or sign off from the QA team. Then we'll put the same code into, deploy the same code into UAT environment. See, promoting the code from local to dev, dev to SIT, SIT to UAT, UAT to pre-prod, pre-prod to prod, there will be a separate team most of the times, but till pre-prod, it is the responsibility of the developer to take care of those things. Now, one more thing also, there is one more responsibility which I forgot. Whenever you are developing your application, if there are different systems connected to your application, you need to communicate with all the respective stakeholders and get the details. For example, like there is a third party REST API, you need to connect to them, you need to ask for the entire details. What is the host, what is the port, okay, what is the authentication you are following, okay, what is the path, okay, what are the security policies applied on them. All those details you need to collect from them, and then you need to test it. If it is working properly, that is fine. If it is not working properly, again you need to connect with them. There will be a to and fro email communication. Never go for a casual Teams communication. Try to go for email communication whenever they are outside of your team, for sure. Okay, then you will get the respective, for example, like you wanted to use the Salesforce connector, you will connect with the Salesforce team and you will get all the details. You should know as a MuleSoft developer what are the details required for you from your side, and you should be very clearly writing an email, I need all these details, please provide the necessary details. And you should know why it is required also. Sometimes because the Salesforce team will not understand what is required from MuleSoft side, you should be able to clearly specify your requirement, like, okay, I need the username, password, maybe a secret token, okay, and the URL, authorization URL, all this, why it is required, you should be very clearly known to you, for making them understand this is the reason I need this particular detail. Now the application is promoted to UAT, right? Now the application is on the UAT system. Now what you should do, you should invite the business users or the business team to test your application. That is done, and then you will receive the approval sign off. You need to take the sign off from them also. After that, performance testing. Yesterday we discussed, right? Performance testing has to be done by the performance tester, and it is done in the pre-prod environment most of the time. And based on the cost and the financial stability of that particular organization, they will decide the number of environments. Okay, maybe the requirement and all. Ideally, I'm telling dev, SID, UAT, pre-prod, prod, and DR, disaster recovery environments, they are required. But still, I have told you another point also. If they don't have that much of requirement, what they will try to do, dev, UAT, and prod also will be there, or dev, SIT, prod, or dev, SIT, UAT, prod. This way they can have multiple environments for sure. If it is a banking organization, they will be having a disaster recovery. Yesterday I have explained you the importance of disaster recovery environment also, if you remember. Now one more thing, if there are any issues raised by the testing team, yesterday we discussed, right, that and all you need to take care of, bugs and all we have discussed that in very detail yesterday. Okay, now after completing the performance testing, we know, right, what is performance testing and what we will try to do, what are the activities to be performed as part of the performance testing and all we have clearly seen yesterday. Now, if there are any issues reported by the users to the product, now what happens? You got all the approvals, required approvals, and then you will go for prod deployment. Okay, they will decide one date, and a separate team will be there most of the time to deploy to the production deployment. For the production deployment, now you have to keep all these things ready to get the approval for production deployment. All your UAT sign off, SIT sign off, performance testing related sign off, okay, and business users sign off, everything has to be at one place, and then you'll be allowed for production deployment. Now see, there is a phase called hypercare. Once the application is deployed to production, most of the time there will be a separate production support team who will take care of the production applications. But as they are completely new to that particular applications, what happens? It is the responsibility of a developer to take care of the hypercare. What is that hypercare? The 30 days or 45 days, the production support which is given by the developer, okay, that particular phase is known as hypercare. Now the knowledge transfer has to be given to the production support team. Knowledge transfer means what is your API, what it will do, what is the significance of your API, what is the business related details, all those details has to be given as a training to the production support team. And whenever there are issues or errors raised by the business team, by the users, you should be part of that particular troubleshooting, and then you should support the production support team also. Okay, see, why I'm discussing all these things, you should know what is your limit. Okay, where and all you have to pitch in. That is the reason I'm clearly discussing the role and responsibility of a MuleSoft developer. And in the meantime, your lead or the architect will come into picture whenever you are not able to fix something, or whenever you are not able to communicate to the proper team. All those all those instances, obviously you will have a support from your lead and architect, but it is your responsibility 80 to 90% of the time to take the issues and to communicate to the respective teams, stakeholders and all. Exactly, it is your responsibility. For that reason, you should be clearly understanding all these things. See, provide knowledge transfer about the integrations and APIs to the QA team, new team members and production support team. This is a responsibility of a MuleSoft developer for sure. Once this is done, everything is done. No, you have to prepare the documentation in Confluence for the developed API. Maybe the sequence diagram or the details of your API, everything has to be documented properly in Confluence. If there is any documentation tool, Confluence is a documentation tool. If there is no documentation tool, some team leads or managers may ask you to prepare a Word document, or some projects they may not require, they will not ask you to prepare any document. But nowadays most of the people are going for documentation management tool called Confluence, and you will be preparing all the required documentation over there. You'll put the high level design, low level design, sequence diagram, flow diagram, and the entire API explanation, and you'll put the Postman collection there, design center API specification URL, okay, and a Postman collection for all the respective environments, whatever the environments are specified for that particular organization. Okay, everything has to be documented very properly, because whenever you resign and go away from the organization, or you are moved to the other team, the new team member will easily understand what is happening. Anyway, you will provide the KT to him, but still he has to have the proper access of everything. That is the reason they will try to manage this way. All these are the responsibilities and roles of a MuleSoft developer. And one more time, if you are a senior developer in the team, you will be asked to monitor and train your junior employees also. Okay, they'll ask you to support them, give them the helping hand in terms of the MuleSoft aspects, technical aspects. If you are a senior developer, if you are a junior developer, at least you can take care of you can take some help from your senior developers. You can ask them questions, and you can take their help by having a good rapport with them. Exactly. Okay, all these are the roles and responsibilities. Okay, as part of this ecosystem, you need to interact with your team lead, your team members, your architect. Okay, your respective stakeholders, like technical stakeholders and non-technical stakeholders. Technical stakeholders means maybe you need a Salesforce connection, you need to connect with the Salesforce team, okay, or a third-party REST API to that team. Non-technical means your business team or the client's business team. Okay, these are the non-technical stakeholders. Okay, all there is a possibility of communicating with different stakeholders, technical, non-technical. And there is a possibility for non-technical means exactly like you wanted to establish the Salesforce connection from your production server to Salesforce server. You need to raise the connectivity request exactly. At that point of time, you need to connect to the infrastructure team also. Okay, see, database connectivity, database again you need to collect the database details and you need to raise a request to establish the connection between your application server and database. Now what happens, you need to interact with the infrastructure team also, whether they have opened that particular connection properly or not. You need to test it. Okay, and then you have to take care of all these things. These are all the responsibilities of a MuleSoft developer. Any questions?
No.
Okay, I think, I hope I covered almost all the points, maybe 95 to 97% of all the responsibilities. Okay, apart from this, you will not have more any further responsibilities as a MuleSoft developer. I'm not telling it as for a developer. I'm telling like maybe a senior developer or a developer. These are the most responsibilities. For team lead, architect, and the solution architect, the responsibilities will change drastically. Okay, that will be completely different. Okay, what we'll try to do, we'll try to see the softwares required for executing this particular project. What are the softwares? Okay, see, we know, right, already, like we need a anypoint platform account, anypoint studio, and for encrypting and decrypting your properties, right, you require securities properties jar. Okay, Java and Maven if required if required for, it's required for mule instance exactly. Okay, if you go for on-premises deployment model, right, on-premises and hybrid deployment model, at that point of time you require Java and Maven, because now anypoint studio is coming with embedded Java and Maven. Because of that reason, there is no separate Java and Maven installation for your anypoint studio execution, but still you require it for hybrid and on-premises deployment model, because we discuss on-premises, hybrid, and cloud hub deployment model. 3 deployment models will be discussed as part of our project discussion. Okay, for that reason we require Java and Maven installation also. Obviously you require Postman, and code repository tool we are going to use GitHub. And once we create the GitHub account, we need to access that GitHub account through Git Bash or GitHub desktop exactly. Okay, we'll use, and one more thing I just want to mention here, there are certain organizations which will not allow Git desktop. What is Git desktop? It is an UI which is used to pull the code, push the code to pull the code from remote repo to local system. Okay, push the code from local repo to remote repo. Okay, it is a UI option. If some organizations are not providing, you need to know the Git bash option. It's a command line option. You need to know that also. We'll see both the ways, how to pull the code, push the code with the help of GitHub desktop and with the help of Git bash also. Both the approaches will be trying to know, because it is the minimum responsibility of a developer to understand these things and know. And we will understand what is GitHub, why is it used, okay, what is its importance, how to create an account there, how to create a repo, how to clone it, how to pull it, how to push it. All those things we'll be discussing as part of our project training. Okay, then immediately Jira. We know, right, Jira is a project management tool. I told you we'll create a story and story will be assigned to you, right? Okay, we should know Agile methodology. As part of Agile methodology implementation, you'll be following Jira account. I will try to take a class complete session on Jira Agile methodology and how Jira will be utilized as a project management tool. Okay, and we'll try to create a Confluence account, and we'll try to set up some account on how to put your documentation there. We'll try to see that also as part of the Confluence setup. And we try to use Salesforce as part of our project, right? That's why we need to create a Salesforce account and create some objects there, and you need to utilize that objects as part of our project. For that reason, we need to see the Salesforce account setup also. Okay, and then there is a database connected in as part of our project. For that also, we need to use maybe a remote database or MySQL or Oracle, whatever is the database. We'll try to use that as part of our project. Okay, and FTP server, as of now, we don't have any requirement for this project, as we are not implementing anything from FTP server as part of this particular project. Maybe I'll try to discuss and individually about this. Maybe I'll take a file from there and then try to implement that particular process exactly. Okay. Even ActiveMQ also. ActiveMQ is a JMS related activity where you'll try to use it for messaging services. Okay, maybe VMQ or ActiveMQ will try to inculcate those uses, those connectors uses in as part of our project exactly, and then we'll try to see those connectors also. We'll see like how to set up your ActiveMQ server, how to set up your FTP server, and then how to use them with the help of FTP connector or the JMS connector. And most of the courses, obviously they'll be having the deployment model. Directly they will take the jar and they will deploy it on Cloud Hub. Okay, it's not like that. Here we'll try to understand Jenkins as CI/CD, Jenkins tool as a CI/CD tool for this DevOps deployment exactly. Okay, Jenkins as the DevOps deployment. We'll try to utilize it as a CI/CD pipeline. We'll create there one pipeline, and then we'll try to deploy the application with the help of CI/CD pipeline, because most of the real-time requirement requires to deploy your project through a pipeline nowadays. For that reason, obviously, we'll download Jenkins, how to download, how to set up that, how to create a pipeline. All those things will be discussed as part of our project. And even obviously, this is one of the most required things, Notepad++ for it is more than a regular Notepad. That is the reason it is called as Notepad++. This is one of the most wonderful tools which can be utilized for your regular development work. Not only MuleSoft developers, even other developers will use this. Okay, and we need this particular thing, and you can download this and you can utilize as part of your project. These are the list of softwares and tools we'll be using as part of our project, and all those will be discussed in detail. Yeah, any questions? Any questions? See, you may have doubt like, or how to, for example, like I just wanted to let you know, people, the first few weeks will be completely off the software setups exactly. Okay, now if you go one by one, see here, we'll discuss what is TLS, one-way TLS, two-way TLS, symmetric encryption, digital certificate, all this key store, trust store. Okay, one-way TLS, two-way TLS. Okay, that way we'll have topic by topic and we'll discuss in detail. See, here we are discussing about remote repository like GitHub. Okay, what is distributed version control system, centralized one, what is Git, what is Git workflow. See here. Okay, we'll try to explain, because you need to, as a developer, it is a responsibility to understand and know everything. See what is Confluence, how to create that, how to create the documentation. Okay, all these things. Okay, one is, we'll take step by step. We'll not hurry up. We'll take step by step, and then we'll be helping you to see Jira, and create sprint. We'll create a story and manage a story. Okay. How is Jira helpful? And what is agile methodology? How it will work? Okay. All those will be discussed as part of your project. Okay. And one more thing, for example, like if I wanted to show you the documentation for BRD or functional specification document, I'll just show that also, how it looks. Yesterday we have seen, but I'll show it to you today also. This is a functional specification document for transaction management. Okay, here all those details will be there. And see here, it is a business scenario. It will facilitate a seamless transaction management process by allowing users or members to initiate transactions using their credit cards. This integration ensures immediate and accurate updates in the Salesforce end system, optimizing data synchronization and enhancing overall efficiency. Who will take care of this documentation? Business team. And it is a flow chart. See here. Okay, from front end will receive, experience API will receive, and then process API, and then system API. We have a sequence diagram: transaction experience API, process API, how it will, how the journey looks exactly. And see here, system API. What is the resource? What is the method? What is that particular endpoint? We have only one endpoint for this particular system API. And then what is it? This endpoint will receive the request from upstream APIs and create a transaction in the SFTC CRM system. And then what are the headers of that particular request? These are the 5 headers. And then what is the description of each header, whether it is mandatory or not mandatory? What is the data type? Okay, and then query parameters. There are no query parameters, URI parameters. Okay, request body. This way the document will be very clear. We'll see this documentation and then create one by one. And this is the request body example. This is the request body, and this is the response body, how your response should look like. Response body example. Now system API to SFDC transaction object mapping. Okay, this is the mapping sheet exactly. Okay, as part of our integration development, mapping sheet is also very, very important. Whenever there are two different systems, how are you mapping from this system to that system? That is also very, very important. Here we have one side, one second. Okay, I think I haven't done this properly. I'll do that exactly. What happens? Mapping sheet, left side one system will be specified, right side one system will be specified. We'll be trying to create a mapping sheet. For example, like here, from front end we are getting a request and we are trying to put it into the Salesforce system. We should create a mapping sheet from front end to Salesforce system. Front end fields will be one side and Salesforce fields will be one side. We'll create a mapping to how it should be mapped from one to one field exactly. That is also very, very important. And then process API details. Okay, and then in the bottom, experience API details, then error responses, how your error response should look like. Okay, this is the complete documentation you need to follow and then create your API. What we'll try to do, we'll try to first of all go through all the software requirements. We'll create all the accounts, we will create the setup, and we'll finish off everything, and then slowly we'll move on one by one exactly. Okay, any questions so far? This way the complete project training will be happening. Okay, one through the whiteboard interaction, you will be given all the PPTs and the documentation. And yesterday I have shown you the interview documentation also, right? For each and every interview question we have an answer exactly. Already I think if someone has not attended the yesterday's session, I'll just show you like how we have created the documentation for interview exactly. For example, like now API manager related, if you see, okay, now see, these are all the what is API manager, what is API auto discovery, how to configure it, question and answer. See, normally there will be answers in the internet, but what happens is there will be very lengthy answers, but you never know how to answer it in a proper structured manner for the interview. I have written it in a very simple English, and then it is very, very easy to answer, and it will be very, very crispy Crispy means very short and crispy. Exactly. Whatever is required as part of the interview. Okay, I'm not writing very lengthy answers. What is API proxy? What is the difference between API gateway and proxy? What are the different policies you have worked on? What is basic authentication? What is client ID enforcement? What is the difference between basic authentication, client ID was? What is the HTTP caching policy, rate limiting policy, spike control, differences between rate limiting and throttling? What have you worked on OAuth policy? Please explain the OAuth process. Okay, what are the different grant types available? OAuth process we'll discuss in very detail because nowadays everyone is asking OAuth policy. Because of that reason, OAuth related. What is JWT validation policy? As part of our experience API, we are implementing this JWT policy only. Okay, this way, if you observe, there are every section. For example, if you check out RAML, right? The questions related to RAML. What is the difference between trait and see, and I just want to make sure like one more clarify one more question exactly. Okay, most of the people will have like for how many experience, how many years of experience people this will be useful. At least in mules of 2 to 3 years or 4 years, it will be helpful. And one more thing I just want to take into picture is for the last 2 weeks I'm using the same questions for the interviews, but I am unable to get the right candidate for the first round. Okay, and the experienced candidates we are hiring is like almost from 8 years to 12 years, 8 years to 12 years. Okay, fine, because if you are ready with these questions and answers in a proper manner, right, that is more than enough to clear the interview. 70 to 80% of the time will be clearing the interviews. And even for example like error handling, okay, and the data we've related interview question and answers. See here. Okay, this is the way the entire program is structured and delivered exactly. Okay, if you have any questions we'll discuss, please let me know.